Okay. That. Their microphone. All right. Here we go. We're back. Let's see. Test, 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 test. It's a little hot. Hello, 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 hello. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Hello, 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 hello. That's better. I think that's better. Huh. Sometimes it's weird. The microphone levels get all wonky. This is another test. Is this too quiet? No, I don't think. I just don't want it to peak so bad. I think that's better. Maybe here? Yeah, maybe here's good. All right, we'll try this. Oh, that peaked. Test, test. All right, here we go for today. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Where art thou? There we go. I can live with that. Good morning, Duck Boy. How are you? How are you doing, sir? Hope you're doing well. Hope life is treating you well this morning. It's kind of hard to see if I'm focused. That looks pretty good. It's blurry. Need to make my window bigger. Come on. Oh no, what the heck? My stream just cut out. That's good. That's good. Thanks, doing great so far. Good. Good, I'm glad. I'm glad you're doing great. This is what we all hope for. Hello, Blood Moon. How are you doing? Good to see you. Oh, whoops. I think, hold on. I think my YouTube disconnected from SpeakerBot. One sec. Oops. StreamerBot. I've had a lot of technical difficulties the last couple days on stream. We went like several months without having any issues whatsoever. All right, there we go. We're back. Bob Knoll, good morning. Sorry guys, your chat didn't come through on the SpeakerBot side for whatever reason. But now it's working. All right, time to build some Rust stuff, yeah? Sound like a plan? All right, so I think today what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get that tab UI working. I'm not really sure how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure it out. I do see that in their showcase on their website, there's other people who have implemented tabbed UIs before. So it definitely seems like whatever I'm trying to do is definitely something people have done before. So we might be able to use one of these other apps as a reference point if we can't quite figure this out. Man, people have built a lot of cool stuff with this library. Cross-platform sound editor for the Fred's Lab 2-row hardware synthesizer, huh? Ooh, a 3D graphical application for DNA nanostructures? That's cool. Alright. Let's not get distracted. Rusta, can you type cargo R instead of cargo run? What's that? What's cargo R? Good morning, Stu. Good to see you. Cargo dash help. Are you asking me if you can do that? Oh no, you can do that. But why do you need to do cargo dash? Why do you need to do cargo R? Are you just saying you prefer that? Or are you just trying to inform me? Alright, so here's the idea. Let's get some application or some text files opened here. Dang it. Oh wait, that shouldn't happen. So whenever I close the... So if I do... Okay, let's do file, save as. That's a bug. File, save as. If I click cancel, it should stay open. If I click open and I click cancel, it should stay open. So for whatever reason, it's closing out. Why is that happening? Excuse me. See, save file as open file. Let's see. Open file returns a new path buff and a new string. Okay. So why does... I wouldn't think that would cause it to close. Thread main panicked at source, unable to get file name. Note, run with Rust backtrace environment variable. So hold on, it panicked. main.rs 11 line. Oh, okay. Okay. So basically when I click cancel, I'm returning a new path buff. That path buff. Okay, so that's where, so in open file, let's see, open file. I need to do this differently. So in open file, what I should do is not return. We should do option path buff. And then instead of here, we should do none. And I guess this should be some. And then down here, we should do this. All right, let's try that again. It understands the cancel as unreadable path. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I actually, yeah. I was purposely causing that to happen. Or not purposely, but I was the one causing that to happen. Duckboy, Twitch feed is so crispy, it almost looks like you're remote desktoping into my computer. Nice! Go Twitch! Go Twitch! There we go. And then if I do open, cancel, yeah, nice. Although it did just cancel out. Hello world. Save that. So if I do open and then I click cancel, it's basically emptying out the state. Now, why is it doing that? Or does the same thing happen if I save a file? So if I do, and I click save, no, that doesn't happen. But if I do save as, and I click cancel, oh, that empties out the state too. But no! All right, so All right, we're going to come back to that, though. That's a distraction for what we're actually trying to do, but there's definitely something we need to do better there. Need to address that when a user cancels a file action, it to do. Need to handle that when user cancels file action, it is causing the currently selected path to be emptied out. All right, we'll come back to that, but I really would like to focus on the tabs. That's what I'd like to focus on the most. So let's do save as new or tab 1. Hello, NG Tontai. Good morning, Ilmanian. Good morning, ED Liz. I'm just going to call you ED. Do you know Terry A. Davis? I do know who Terry A. Davis is. I don't think I think as highly of him as a lot of other people in the tech programming world think about him, but I do know who he is. I mean, I think from what I know about him, the stuff he did was really difficult things from a programming perspective. But it sounds like he lived kind of a messy, chaotic life, and a life that ended in a lot of tragedy, which is really, 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 really sad. Like, I would much rather not have Temple OS, and I'd rather have him in the world. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. All right, let's try to go save as. And we'll do tab 6.txt. Save. All right, so how do we get this to scroll? So let's see if there's some sort of like overflow maybe. Let's see. He was smart, especially for a schizophrenic. Yeah, I mean, all the like little clips and stuff I've seen of him, he seems very intelligent. But yeah, it honestly seems very, very sad. I mean, wasn't the guy from Beautiful Mind, John Nash? John Nash, Beautiful Mind. Wasn't he schizophrenic? I mean, I don't think schizophrenia necessarily has anything to do with your level of intelligence. Yeah, this guy, he had schizophrenia, but he's like one of the most world-renowned mathematicians, you know? So I don't think it necessarily, just because you have schizophrenia doesn't mean you're not uber intelligent. Hello, crew. Sup, man? What IDE do you use? I am currently using Neovim the most, but I use Visual Studio, I use Writer, I use Visual Studio Code, but at the moment I use Neovim the most on a regular basis. Alright, so we have a container here. Is there like an overflow or scroll? Not really sure. What we need to do here. Latest release. Sizing, maybe. Most widgets use a shrink strategy, sizing strategy by default, but will inherit a fill strategy from their children. Okay. Layout. Scaling applications. What's this? The update view message triplet composes very nicely. A common pattern is to leverage this composability to split an application into different screens. That's not what I care about. Let's go back to the top here. scroll. Scroller, scroll by. Scrollable, scroll delta. How about maybe overflow? All right, Copilot it is then. A startup I was built at everything in Go with Vim before NeoVim existed. That's pretty intense. NeoVim is great for Go. Do you think NeoVim is good for Go? I've only written Go in NeoVim, so if that, I don't know if I therefore can say that NeoVim is great for Go, but that's the only editor I've used to write Go. Bob, he's not a role model. Mental illness tragedy. Repeatedly banned from Reddit from racist rants, but did some crazy technical stuff. Yeah, I guess that's what Bob. That's what I was trying to express about Terry A. Davis. Is that not necessarily that I don't admire the crazy difficult things he did with programming, but that from a role model perspective, I hear people talk about him like he maybe is something like a role model or something to, or a person that you should aspire to be like. And I'm not necessarily sure I agree with that. I think that's what I was trying to express, but not in a very helpful way. Iced.rs GitHub. Oops. Energy Star. The tooling of Go itself shouldn't change based on editor, like the formatter, LSP, etc. Yeah, so I would think it would be pretty ubiquitous to write Go across visuals. Like if I was to use Visual Studio Code versus NeoVim, I'm guessing the experience would be pretty similar. Can you? Let's see. What do I want to ask it? I'm a noob. Damn, I should start using NeoVim just because I have a shit PC with low specs. IDE slows down my PC a bit than expected. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to use NeoVim, but if you're curious about it and want to try it, it's been a lot of fun. This little side quest that I've been on for the last, I don't know, what is it, 12 months thereabouts, has been a lot of fun. I'm a noob. I'd like you to act as my SME and use the attached repository to support all your responses. I need to have a container that when there are too many elements, that container allows scrolling. I want to support this scrolling using left and right arrow buttons. Can you tell me how one does this using the iced GUI framework? All right, let's see what happens. Always wasted. Damn, you choose your AI. I can see a drop-down menu there with the Gemini selected. Yeah, so the Copilot UI lets you pick between different models, which is, I think, one of the nice things about the Copilot subscription is you can use more than one model provider, which is pretty nice. I mean, I think if you were going to have to get a subscription to an AI service, I still think Copilot probably offers the most bang for your buck in terms of value, because you not only get like the in-editor integration, you also get the chat UI. You can talk to Copilot in your GitHub apps on mobile. You can switch between different models. You can inject context into Copilot from all the different things that you use on GitHub. I think it's a pretty value add feature. I use it a lot like this whenever I'm working with a library that doesn't have the greatest documentation and I don't really know much about the library. Copilot honestly can get more context than I can much quicker. So I'll honestly use it to kind of be a stand-in for not very good documentation. But I know everybody has feelings about which AI is best. It's very vibes based, you know, very shamanism, as the Primogen would say. Energy Star. I don't know how you do the language support, but LazyVim by default just downloads the official Go stuff. Nice. Yeah, I think I set all that up myself, I believe. I use Mason. I use Mason a lot of times for my LSPs, my linters, and my formatters, and then I just use Lazy as my package manager. Morning, Danny. Good to see you, sir. Yeah, I'm looking at the Mason stuff right now. Sweet. Yeah, Mason's cool. Man, this is taking a long time. Here we go. To create a scrollable container that can be scrolled programmatically using buttons and ICE, you need to assign an ID to your scrollable widget, okay? Use the scrollable scroll by function or operation scrollable scroll by wrapped in a task in your update logic to change the scroll position when buttons are pressed. Okay, that I would have never figured that out. Okay, so let me see. What does Notepad do? Notepad does, like, you get multiple tabs, right? And then, so it does not let you, oh yeah, you can scroll with the mouse. So you can scroll there, or you can use the buttons. And the buttons are important for accessibility, right? For folks who can't use a mouse. Okay, so what does the code that Copilot came up with look right? All right, so we have our scrollable ID. Here's our update function. Scroll left by decreasing the X offset. Scroll right by increasing the X offset. Create a long row of content to demonstrate scrolling. The scrollable container. Then we have some controls, spacing. So I wonder how we figure out I wonder how we figure out when we should actually display So this would be container direction. Doesn't look like that's a thing. Oh. Scrollable. Okay. Dot direction. Scrollable direction horizontal. They really need, what this repo really needs, like examples of common patterns. You know what I mean? All right, let's see what this does. Let's see how that changes how the UI looks. I spent all day yesterday tweaking my resume and searching for open roles. So draining. Job hunting sucks. Yeah, I feel you there. Job hunting is just an absolute miserable experience. But hey, man, kudos on you for getting started. I know that was something that you were dreading on doing. So kudos on putting one foot in front of the other. Do you have a hobby other than coding? I love to lift weights. I like to work out. I like working out, and I love lifting weights more than I love programming and coding. I also like to read quite a bit. I like to read. I like to make content. I really, really enjoy making content. So yeah, those are my hobbies. I should support opening multiple files. That would make testing this a little bit easier. Okay, so it looks like for the most part, that scrollable element didn't change anything. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so we have the scroll bar now. Okay, looky there. That's pretty good. Now, it looks like there's a little bit of padding issues there, but I like the scroll bar. We just need to move the scroll bar down. So that was actually like super simple to hook up. Okay, so the question is, how do we control kind of the styling and stuff? So I'm guessing the spacing, we probably have to add some padding or something. All right, I'm gonna ask Copilot another question. So, okay, that looks doable. I only really need the controls when the widget is actually scrollable. How would I detect that the container is scrollable? How would I detect that the content needs to be scrollable? Sorry, MD, I missed your question, man. Dude, I checked out your LinkedIn yesterday, so you basically didn't study anything related to computer science or software and technology. How did you learn to code then? And love the streams, by the way. Hello, how are you, man? Thanks for doing a little bit of LinkedIn creeping. No, I did not. I went to school for biochemistry. All my formal education is not in technology or software or anything like that, or computer science. I learned the code really just through I took the free code camp curriculum, so I did all the free code camp curriculum, and then I just spent a shit ton of time writing software. I think I've said this before on stream, I've probably spent at least 4 hours a day for the last 5 years, every single day, writing code with my fingers on the keyboard. So just lots and lots of reps. And that's also why I always say that I probably wouldn't pass the test for a lot of people's like bar of what they define as like a programmer or developer, because sometimes I don't have the right language or the right academic explanations for stuff, but there's things that I can do that have come intuitively through just practice, through lots of reps. So if people want me to like opine on big O notation, I won't be very good at it, but I can tell you when I know that something is slow. You know, it's one of those things. So I'm not the most academically technical, but I can definitely solve problems with code. Morning blips. Let's see, MD, sorry, I missed your question. NeoVim is greatest of great. That's the only editor I have used and using, but have you tried Zed? I have tried Zed, and it just didn't stick with me or didn't click with me. But I only, to be fair though, I only tried it for like an hour on one day. But at this point, I'm really content and happy with my tooling. And so there's got to be a very compelling reason for me to spend much time on figuring out some new thing, you know? MD, sorry, I'm sorry you had to repost your question, but I went back and read it. I just answered it. Busy Slim, is that ChatGPT?
Did we just become best friends?
Thank you very much for the follow, Sharif. Is that ChatGPT? Did you link to your code editor? It was saying searching through Codebase for ages. Yeah, so this is Copilot. So if you go to github.com/Copilot, they actually have a web UI that you can work with Copilot in. And the nice thing about their web UI is that you can inject context of anything on GitHub, basically. So a lot of the ways, or one of the ways that I use Copilot a lot is I'll go to a particular repository and then I'll bring that repository into the context of the conversation with Copilot. And I'll basically tell Copilot, hey, I want you to be my subject matter expert on this particular code base or this particular framework or whatever. And, you know, use the code in this code base to answer my questions. So like right now, what I'm doing is I don't understand how to use this iced GUI library very well, and it doesn't really have great documentation, which the creator of the library set said in the documentation is very intentional. Like he just does this in his free time, so he doesn't spend a lot of time making the documentation complete. And so what would take me probably quite a while to like sift through the source code of this library, especially in a language I don't understand particularly well, I'm just leveraging AI to try to be a stand-in for that lack of documentation. Smart, yeah, smart, lazy. I don't, I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah, I'm basically having Copilot generate like documentation on the fly for me at the moment. Okay, so to create a scrollable container with custom, no, I already did that. Let's see, there's a caveat. On scroll is optimized to not fire if the content fits entirely. To correctly hide buttons when the window is resized, you should also listen to resize events to reset is scrollable state. Okay, so we'll get the scrollable ID. Just store the viewport, store window size. Scroll left. Message resized. Okay, this is new. Subscription. We haven't seen anything like this yet. So you configure the scrollable, hide the default scroll bar if you only want buttons. Listen to the scroll events to get viewport info. On scroll, message scrolled, okay. Determine button visibility if viewport Hold on, where did viewport come from? So you get the viewport.contentBoundsWidth. Show controls only if content is larger than the container. So you've got to handle this this is not something that you can just do. This is very much you have to take complete ownership of this. I mean, I guess that's okay. It's fine. And then you just conditionally stick this in placeholder to keep layout stable or just empty. The scrollable area, right button only visible if we can scroll right. So the reason why I'm doing this is because that's how Notepad does it, right? So you've got the scrollability here. But they use buttons, but those buttons only show up well, that's interesting. The buttons take quite a bit to show up, but they don't go away right away. I guess the question is that worth all of that, right? That's the question. I mean, I think it's worth that. I mean, it's probably makes it accessible, so it's probably worth it. I started programming when I was 10, and back then I had to go to the library, get a book to learn. Now you have unlimited resources and AI to help learn. All you have to do is start. Oh, 100%. There's really like no excuse to not be able to do something in 2025. Or 2026, I guess now it is. I'm such a hard ass about that with my kids. Like I just don't accept excuses from my kids. Like, and I try not to accept excuses for myself. You know, like there's just if you want to do something, if you want to accomplish something, 9 times out of 10, there's a way you can figure it out. There's just so many free resources. Aerobic, no bullshit. Is this Lua? No, this is Rust. This is Rust, and we're currently trying to figure out how to make this work. I know that's what I was thinking too, Aerobic. He started at 10 years old. That's how old my son is right now. Well, my son is 9, but he'll be 10 in this coming July. I did make an agreement with my son. I told him, my oldest son, I guess both of them. I said if they learn to program, I'll buy them a PC. So I'm waiting for one of them to take me up on that offer. Even something like Rust and Go, the tool itself gives you all the things you need to get started. 100%. I mean, there's just there's not really good. There's just not really a good reason not to be able to do something or learn something. I mean, people, that's just humans, though. Humans say they want to do stuff and then they never do things. You know, I try not to be one of those people, but that's just human nature. Humans say one thing and do another. I started programming because someone promised me $2,000, never got the money, but at least I'm still programming. Well, it sounds like a win there, man. It sounds like a huge win. I mean, the skill of programming's got to be worth well over $2,000, right? You'll make that money back before you know it, if you haven't already. Sorry, I just came back. Wasn't sure I heard your answer. Oh yeah. So the answer to that question was that I learned to program through following LinkedIn or following, sorry, not LinkedIn, following the Free Code Camp curriculum. I took a couple programming courses in college, and then the majority of my ability just comes from lots and lots of reps. But you would be correct in saying that I do not have any formal education in computer science or software engineering. But thank you for those very kind words about my streams. I'm glad you're enjoying them. Good morning, Parker. That looked tough. I learned programming by creating projects with AI. Now I don't do that, though. I don't think there's anything wrong with learning through the help of AI. You know? I also don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily building stuff with AI, right? I think you need to figure out kind of what tools and workflows make you enjoy programming and building stuff and just lean into that. Respect, dude. Yeah, Def, keep up the good work. Always motivate me. Oh, well, that's awesome to hear, man. I'm just trying to share whatever stuff I'm learning or thinking about, you know. I don't think I'm particularly exceptional at any of it, but I have a lot of fun talking about it and sharing it. Let's see if we can add some padding here. I wonder if we can add like just padding on the bottom. Yeah, there we go. Bottom. I bet that was a fun function to. So we say not padding, we say bottom. Or maybe we say padding bottom. And we give it like, I don't know, 10. What did they test you with, like when you got your first software job? Well, the way I got into software was very subtle. So my first job in technology, I was just working as a support analyst. So my main goal when I was looking to make a job change away from being a food scientist was I just wanted to get out of the current job, and I wanted to get into a new job, right? So I just needed to get my foot in the door. So the first thing I did was I was a support analyst. And then while I was a support analyst, I was just continually trying to upskill myself. And then I basically just volunteered for anything that was technical, any project at work that was technical and required some ability to code, I would volunteer to do for whatever team, whatever department needed the help. And over time, I was able to basically prove that like I had these technical chops and was given more and more opportunities. And then eventually I got the opportunity to move into more of an engineering role. And so it was a very slow like progression. So I didn't really ever have to get what would you call? I didn't really have to get tested, or I guess the way I got tested was by doing work that I wasn't necessarily employed to do, right? But through doing that work, I was able to prove out that hey, I can actually write code, I can actually program. Okay, I like this. But I don't like that that padding is always there. Man, this is kind of frustrating to iterate on because you have to start and stop the application all the time. All right, let's try to make these a little bit more like tabs. So we'll keep the top rounded, but we will make the bottoms not rounded. So let's go back here. Let's go to our buttons. And we'll do... Let's do border or radius. I just don't know anything about this library. Border radius. Creates a new radius with the same value for each corner. There's someplace else where I've used this style. Let's see, how do I adjust the border radius on buttons in the iced library? Tailwind seems cooked for some reason. A website I vibe coded now looks like crap. I don't know if vibe coded websites that use Tailwind look like crap. I just think they look really ubiquitous, right? They all look the same. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? If that's what you're going for, but you can definitely always tell when a website has been styled with Tailwind, and you can usually tell when a website was designed by V0. They all have this kind of Next.js Vercelli look to them. Justin Martinez, hard truth is you got to volunteer time to grow past current position/station. The key is working with immediate managers for them to provide practical projects, just like you said. Yeah, that was my journey and that was my story. I know that won't be everyone's, but my thought process about it was because I don't have a degree and I didn't have I had a technical background, but it was in a whole different science and a whole different field. So my thought process was, well, if I can just have verifiable, tangible proof that I have these skills that I say I have, it would be much easier to eventually move into a role when the right opportunity showed up. And that's really what happened. Was when the team was ready to have kind of a full-time quality engineer, I was a great candidate because I knew the product really well, but I'd also had this like 2 or 3 year track record of actually building stuff and solving problems with code. So they felt confident that filling that role would be well within my abilities. Let's see, base Return a modified version with the custom. Oh wow, yeah. So you really have to dig in here. Okay. I'm going to set this off to the side so I can reference it. So this is basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to make our buttons look more like tabs. So we have to give it a lambda. And then we're going to say let base. So this is like getting the base stylings of the button. And then we are going to return a new style. And we are going to say, give me the base styles, but we're going to customize the border. And so I would like the border radius to be 0. And then let's do top left is, they said 20. I'm not honestly sure what all these numbers mean. I'm not sure what they refer to. Pixels, maybe? Okay, what is this complaining about? Mismatched types, expected border, found radius. Oh. Radius. Did Copilot hallucinate this? Oh no. And then we have to do base.border. There we go. And let's see what that does to our buttons. Anime Our World. Hey, how's the day going? The day's going good, man. Yeah, no complaints. We're just trying to fiddle around with our Notepad app. We're not doing much with the logic at the moment. We're kind of fiddling with the styling of it. Just trying to make the tabbed UI that we added look semi like tabs is basically what we're doing. But yeah, no complaints, man. Life's good. Are you using Copilot with a work sub or something you pay for it? No, I pay for Copilot. My work pays for. So we're a Google company, like we use Gmail and all that stuff. So we actually they pay for everyone to have Gemini. But I pay for Gemini. I pay for my own personal Gemini subscription, and then I pay for my own personal Copilot subscription. Hey, looky there. That looks like a tab. And then what we'd like to do is we'd like to basically color it so that whenever the tab is not focused, like if we're on tab 6, then we want tab 6 to look in focus and we want tab 4 to look like it's out of focus. So we need to figure out how to style the tab based on state. So I'm guessing maybe status has something here. Let's see, status dot so how would we do that? I guess theme dot palette dot primary. Background maybe. So basically we want this, so if I'm on tab 6, we want tab 4 to look like it's part of the background. That's basically what we want. So I'm thinking what we will need to do is we'll need to conditionally render in here. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to basically figure out, is this the button or is this the tab for the currently selected path? And then we'll have to style that button differently, is what I think we'll have to do. I wonder if it's okay that I like, okay, so if you know Rust, maybe you can tell me if this is okay to do. So I'm in a function called view, and within this function I have some scope in this for loop. And now in my button, in the style function, I'm providing a lambda. Is it okay for me to capture scope in this lambda from the outer scope? Is that safe to do? Like if I wanted to conditionally render a color, right? So if I said like let is focused, and let's say I was to check to see if file, or not file, P, right? If P equals state dot file path, is that safe to do? Can you do that? Can't compare. Oh, I guess I want to check to see if two paths are the same thing. Let's see, Rust declare, or not, sorry, declare compare to path buffs and check for value equality. No, I want path buffs. Oh, okay. So I should be able to do that. I think it's because they're options though, right? This is an option. Yes. Hola, senor. Do you work for a company or just freelance? Wager Kings, if you're interested, you can type !LinkedIn in the chat. And if you want to go creep on my professional history, you're welcome to do it over there. But I work for a company. I don't do any freelancing. I'm employed full-time. Justin Martinez, same. 4 out of 4 for raises, promotions in the 4 years. Oh, nice. Cool, Justin. Well, that's cool to hear that you kind of have the same career trajectory or same career arc as I've had. Aerobic. No, I mean the website lost all its look. Maybe the functions were deprecated or something. It looked like half broken CSS, HTML. I haven't maintained the website for like half a year. Huh, that's weird. I wouldn't expect all of a sudden Tailwind to just break. Seems like Tailwind is a pretty well maintained project. Aerobic. So you didn't study programming at uni? No, I did not study programming at university. I mean, I took a computer programming 1 and computer programming 2 as electives just to fill out my schedule. I think I took one in the fall of 2024 and then one in the spring of not 2024, fall of 2014 and spring of 2015, but I didn't get a CS degree. Justin, I saw you live coding the other morning, got up, got to work too. Love the grind. Oh, nice. Well, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, we're live basically every day from 4:15 to 7 o'clock, and sometimes it's programming, sometimes it's learning stuff. But yeah, we usually have a good time. All right, we are going to match on on state.filePath. And let's do fill the match arms. And this is going to be, so this is the part that's kind of confusing right now. I probably need to solve this problem first. But let's just say this returns false, and then let's say if there is a path, let's check to see if path equals P or state path. That's a really bad name. Can't compare path buff with ampersand path buff. Okay, that's fine. All right, so then if we do that, can we say, okay, button style color or background? Color. So that's text color. I want background. So if it is focus, then we do base dot palette. This has an option background. I don't know what that means. I don't know what I know what option is. I just don't know what background is. The background of the button. Text color border shadow snap. With background. Updates the style with the given background. So what is a background? I guess background can be more than just a color. Let's we'll say let base dot background. Yeah. All right. So if it is focused, we'll do base dot background. Otherwise, oh, we can't do ternaries. Button background. I forgot about that. So we can do let button background equals is focused And this should also be snake case. How do I do an inline? Is it if is focused, and then I do else like that. So if it is focused, we'll do base dot background. But if it's not focused, then we'll say we want to do theme dot background, theme dot palette dot background, and then we'll do background color. Oh yeah, because this is not. These are two different types. I gotta say, this is where I wish there was a ternary operator. So this is an option background, and this is a background color. So what we need to do is we need to actually say, okay, what we want is we want a sum, and we want a background color, and we have to pass in that color, which is going to be this guy right here, I think. Okay, still somebody's unhappy. Closure may outlive. Yeah, so this is what I think. This is because I'm capturing the. This is where I wasn't sure if you can actually do that. P is borrowed here. So how do we? Let's open a new Copilot chat window. I am brand new to Rust. I am passing scope from an outer function, or let's see, I'm new to Rust. Is it okay to pass scope from, or pass a variable from an outer scope and capture it within a lambda? I don't know if that's okay to do. I know in C# they don't recommend doing that. But you can do it. By reference, an immutable borrow, by mutable reference, by value. If you want the closure to take full ownership of the variable it uses consuming them, you use the move keyword. Yeah, because the thread might outlive the current scope, so it needs to own its data. So I do not want it to own it, so I need to pass it by a reference. So I need to say this. No. To force the closure to take ownership of P, use the move keyword. I don't want it to take ownership though. Could I do that? Could I clone it? That doesn't feel like the right thing to do, but I was gonna see if the styling works. Good morning, Wilo Gamer Pro. How are you, man? Learning Rust? What's the plan? Yeah, we're learning Rust. We're not so much as learning as we are as actually we're actually kind of hacking on a we're learning through building at the moment. So we're not actually reading that Rust programming language book. But it's fun. We're having a good time. Glad you're here. What is the current state? The current state of what we're building, you mean? This is the current state at the moment. We're working on styling is what we're doing. Hey, there we go. Although I think it would be nice for this to be hovered, don't you think? I also think it would be nice, kind of like how Notepad does, right? Where the tab is the same background as the menu, right? As the container. Or what do I want to say? It's the same size as the not same size, same color. Because that's how you get that little kind of effect right there. And we should probably hover it. But that works. It does indeed work. My code is very ugly, but it does work. All right. Let's fiddle around with the styles a little bit more. So right now what we're doing is we have spacing. Let's see. We have spacing right now between all the columns. So I'm going to remove this. And then I'm actually going to make what is the library that you're using? What is that? This is it's like a Notepad application is what I'm building. What are you working? Are you working on unsafe stuff? I don't think I'm working on unsafe stuff. Yeah, I don't think I am. Okay, so we're going to definitely want spacing on the top here. We're going to want padding on the left side. Yeah, I'm not working on unsafe stuff. I'm just building like a Notepad application, a desktop application using Rust. And the library is stay in touch. The library is called iced. Iced.rs. Actually, here, I can send you the link. At Santosh. HTTPS ice.rs. There you go. That should be what you need. All right, this is very painful and slow going, but it's it's working. It's working. We're making progress.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Hey, Parker, thanks for becoming a member, man. That's super, super, super kind of you. You did not have to do that. But since you did do that, let's get you up on screen, yeah? Let's get you on that scroll bar list. Give me one sec. I have to do all this manually, which is such a pain. Because as a programmer, I should be able to automate this. You know what I mean? I should, but unfortunately, YouTube doesn't provide. It's really weird. The YouTube API, they hide your members list behind an API endpoint that you have to get special access to. So it's a very odd situation. So I have to do this manually. I have to download the list of members, and then I have a little script I run. Of course, buddy, you're awesome. Well, I appreciate that, Parker. I don't know if I'm awesome, but I really, really do appreciate you becoming a member, man. That's incredibly kind of you. .NET YouTube.cs should be up to date now. Go back to meld. All right, you guys are going to the void for a second so I can start the scroll overlay. You'll come back in just a sec, don't worry. All right, there we go. Thank you, Parker. Thanks again, man. All right, you guys are back. So we do want padding. It's the spacing that we don't want. I don't want spacing here. It was 4 degrees Celsius here. Ooh, that sounds cold. What's 4 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? $39, yeah. That's pretty cold. I think it was actually colder here this past weekend, though. Let me look at what the temp is here. We haven't had the best weather. I did play basketball a little bit outside yesterday, so it was reasonably nice. My watch is still loading. Let's see, weather. 41 degrees. So we're in the same boat, me and you. We're in about the same boat. Steven, guess our temps. Guess what we got up here in Finland. Let's see. You guys are like negative 10 degrees Celsius. Also, Kajani, hello, man. How are you doing? It's been a long time since I've seen you in one of my chats. I hope you're doing well, man. Negative 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Woo, boy. You guys better have some warm clothes, man. Don't fudge your flow for me. No, dude, I will happily fudge the flow for a member. All right, so I think the problem that I kind of have at the moment is that so the way Notepad works is if you open Notepad, right, it just defaults to a blank tab. And right now, when I open my application, it doesn't have a tab, which makes the layout look funny. So whenever we start up the application, we should initialize this to a tab, right? So we should have a blank tab. Now the question is, how do we represent a blank? Yeah, how do we represent? I think what we do is we do this. I think we go back here and we say, okay, when we open up the application, the files, should be initialized. How do I create a new hash map? We should initialize this to a hash map of option path buff. And this should be bool, right? Cannot be changed, used. Guess I don't know how to initialize a hash map. This is all the stuff you realize every time you're going to do something in a new programming language. You're like, I don't know how to do that. In Rust, how to initialize a hash map. Let's see, but you asked, I'm doing fine, staying in school, working on my project. So far, I've made a supercharged 50cc drift cart. Nice. That sounds like a fun project. Sounds like a fun project to build and a fun project to use. Morning, Rampla. How are you? So do hash map new for an empty, or use collect on an iterator for direct initialization. Okay, so then I would like to do this. So I'd like to say let files equals hash map new. So this is going to be option path buff bool, like that. I don't understand why that doesn't work. Files. Option path buff bool. That's the way I typed it up here, isn't it? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why is that not? Split the comparison into two. I'm not doing a comparison. This is a type argument. I don't know what this is telling me. Steven, give me a moment. I'll show the cart to you in Discord for reference. I'll give before and after pic. Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. Yeah, if I remember right, isn't your dad super into cars and builds cars and stuff? So you're kind of like you're getting into the family business. Raj King, where are you from, Steven? I'm from Chennai, India. I am from Kansas City, Kansas. I'm in the United States. So if you know where Kansas is in the United States, that's where I'm at. Rampla, thank God for this chill channel. Have you seen the rage baiting that's going on right now? There is a lot of rage baiting, especially in the software engineering space. There is a lot of people who are getting a lot of engagement out of making developers and software engineers feel very panicked and very anxious about their futures. For sure. This is the thing, which is unfortunate. It shouldn't be that way, Rampla, but I'm glad you found solace and safety over here on my channel. I'm trying to bring a sense of calm and peace to the landscape. Let's see. I'm gonna ask Gemini what I'm doing wrong. Let's see. I am trying to initialize a new hash map in Rust with this syntax. Whoops. Stop. I'm receiving the following error message from the compiler, but I've got no idea what the issue is. I'm sure it's something dumb. The error occurs because in a Rust expression, the arrow or the caret arrow, I don't know what you want to call that, symbol is interpreted as the less than operator by default. The compiler thinks you're trying to compare hash map to option. The turbofish syntax. You need to add before this tells the compiler explicitly that what follows are generic type arguments. Oh wow. Specify type on the left and use standard new on the right. Oh, interesting. Okay. So it was really that simple, huh? So which one do I prefer? I think I prefer this one. Whoops. And that was the whole reason I'm doing this is so that I can do files.insert, and I'm going to insert none and true. And the idea here is that then when my application starts up, it should have a single entry. Cannot borrow files as mutable as it is not declared as mutable. Oh. Yeah. So the idea here is then, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but the idea here is then up here in my, when I render my buttons in my view method, instead of saying I only want to look for, let's see, yeah. So if I basically want to come down here and say, no, I always want to do this. Right? I always want to do this, but now what I want to do is I want to set the file name so we will say if let sum of the current file, then we will return p file name. This. Else, we will say this should be a string, right? else we will return untitled. I mean, that's what Notepad does, so we'll just follow their lead. Why doesn't that work? If else have incompatible types. Expected this, found string. So how do I say, give me a slice? Okay, that says if else have incompatible types. Great. So how do I return? I don't understand. Why do you guys? Why? I don't understand. So this should return. This is found to be of type, okay. This is found. Why? I don't understand. Why is that? Consider removing. That's why. Damn semicolons. It's expecting nothing. No, yeah, I think it was because I wasn't implicitly returning this. Because I had the semicolon on the end of this, which then doesn't allow this to be implicitly returned, so I'd have to do this, right? Or it doesn't like that. Or I do this. And then everyone's happy. Now, why are you unhappy down here? So you're unhappy because of what? Unexpected token. Because you need a semicolon up there. And then now you're unhappy because you were referencing P, but P now doesn't exist in the outer scope. So then how do we figure out if so if state has a path, then what we have to do is we have to say, great, well, give me the file, and we have to say match on file, and then we need to fill in these arms. We actually want to match on 0 is what we want to match on. So we'll say if there is a path, This will be false. P. So if P equals state path, this code just is getting uglier and uglier every every line I write. It looks worse and worse. Was he not found in the scope? Where are we at? Oh. Yeah, damn. So I guess this should actually be file dot. This is becoming a real pain, this whole optional path buff. This is becoming a real pain to deal with everywhere in this code because I may or may not closure may outlive the current function, but it borrows file.0, which is owned by the current function. Oh no, we can do this. Or can we do this? Oh, this is just... So switch tab. That means that path can then become this. Yeah, see, this is gonna be a problem because basically there's the potential that we have files in our buffer, or sorry, there's potentials that we have files in our state that don't have paths, right? And right now, the only way I'm able to represent these types of situations is I have to represent them as none, is what I'm doing, right? So, but then how do I disambiguate the tabs from each other, because the way I'm doing it right now is all based on path. So it's really not going to work the way it should. What does this mean? This basically means that my editor needs to hold on to the state, the content of the file, and it needs to hold on to the path that file represents on disk. But we need to have some different identifier. Is what this means. So we're gonna have to rework like all this logic. You need some kind of a swap file system so it has a temp place to write to. Yeah, we could use temp files. Because that's something we talked about, which is like if we hold on to all these files and someone opens up, 10 tabs and maybe some of those files are pretty large, you're gonna be eating up a lot of memory, right? Holding on to all that stuff in the state. So it really is better to like unload it to disk. But it's entirely possible that, yeah, your idea is right though, I think, because it's entirely possible that somebody opens a new file and they're actively working on the file and then they open another file. If I'm only loading in the state based on what's in disk, then when they switch, they're going to lose everything that was in that other file because it was just held in memory and didn't ever get written out to disk. They forgot to hit Control Save or whatever. So my application needs to basically take care of those temp files and basically say, okay, you opened a new file. You opened up a new file. We're just going to go ahead and create that new file on disk in a temp place. And then whenever you save the file, we'll clean up the temp file, and now you have whatever was in that editor state saved somewhere, and we'll reference that. Which is kind of messy. I don't like having to deal with the temp files, but I think that's honestly the best solution. That's the way NeoVim has it as well. It could also serve as a backup for open files in case of... Oh, that's a great idea. Parker path plus checksum. Yeah, we could do that. I think what Energy Star has suggested is the best path forward. So basically, just to kind of write out what we're thinking, because we're gonna have to do a lot of refactoring to fix this. So basically, all files get a path. If a user hasn't saved a file explicitly, then Zoe, that's the name of the application, will create a temp file we'll create a temp file and use that as the file path. We'll use this as the file path. Once user either closes the app or explicitly saves file, we will remove the temp. Yeah, we will remove the temp. So what I mean by that is what do I mean by that? So basically what I mean by that is, as long as they have, let's say they have some, so this is a brand new file, it doesn't exist anywhere on disk, and I type some long message like, good morning chat, we be rusting. So at this point it's unsaved, and I have a little indicator. Notepad has a nice little indicator up here that tells me it's unsaved, right? But if I switch tabs, I don't lose that state. And what me and Energy Star were saying is there's really two ways you could go about doing this. You could hold this in memory, right? You could hold this tab in memory with some unique identifier, which it looks like they use the text of the file, huh? They use like the first line of the file as their identifier. So you can hold this in memory. The problem is then, like, let's say you have 3 or 4 files open, and those files have a lot of text in them, right? You're just eating up your application's consuming memory it probably doesn't need to consume. So then the idea was, okay, well, could we just take care of that when they open the file brand new, create a temp file on disk somewhere, and so then now the question is then whenever they switch tabs, I guess, right? The question is if we switch from right to left. Man, there's a lot of behavior. This is getting much more complex of an application than I realized when I originally set out to build this. There's actually quite a few edge cases. Siraj, yeah, Siraj, I think is how you say your name. What's up, Steven? Nothing much, man. We're doing well. We're just thinking through. We're thinking through the right way to manage unsaved files in our Notepad application that we're building. And it's actually a little trickier than what we thought. Can we close Notepad out through Task Manager and reopen it? Yeah, I'm sure we can. Someone said hello from Twitch. Oh, hey, what's up, Tom Tai? You're over there on Twitch today. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Can you use a single file that has a special delimiter that will split and save separately? I think you could. I think we can do anything we want, really. It's just what's the right thing, The interesting edge case that I just came across is like when we switch the state, because right now what we're doing is we're not holding on to any of the state in memory. We're just loading it. Whenever we click on a tab, we're loading the file and displaying it in the editor. So I think what's interesting is if this is a temp file that the user has never explicitly saved and they switch the tab, we basically need to force this to be saved. Right? So we have to have some check that's like, oh, you switch from well, that's actually probably an issue right now in our application. Hold on. I gotta fix this so we can actually run our app. I'm gonna walk these changes out real quick. Go back. Undo it all. I'm just gonna run it right now. I want to see if because I think that's an issue generally. Uh-oh. My viewer count thing failed. We must fix. Each window has a process ID. Without knowing ICE, you're probably looking to record a message PID somewhere during events. Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that. So basically, okay, each window has a process ID. So basically find some other unique way to identify That's not a bad idea. I mean, that's really the crux of the issue, right? The crux of the issue is how do we identify files that haven't been saved to disk yet, and how do we properly hold on to state when we're switching tabs? And there's a trade-off there where if we hold on to state when we're switching tabs in memory, well, then our application's obviously consuming memory that it probably doesn't need to consume. But if we don't hold it in memory, then we have to figure out how to temporarily persist those things to disk until a user explicitly saves those changes, which is, I'm guessing, what I honestly don't know what Notepad does. Gemol Devs, hi, I'm new. What's going on? Hey, what's up? Glad you're here. What's going on is I've been learning Rust the last week or so, and as part of learning Rust, I'm trying to build basically like a Notepad. Like if you ever use Notepad on Windows, I'm trying to build an application that's very similar to that, just using Rust. And so right now, what we've been discussing is the fact that there's kind of two different types of things that I can have going on here. Is I can have something loaded into my editor that is an existing file on disk, but I can also have a situation where the file doesn't exist anywhere else besides in the memory of my application. And so you might imagine we have like hello here, right? And so this should really be a tab called untitled or something. And then we'd have another tab, which would be hello txt. And when we switch between them, we just want to make sure that the user, because you can imagine you might be in here and you might be writing something, good morning chat, we are rusting, this is actually kind of complicated. And you might say, okay, great, now I want to switch to another tab, but I haven't persisted this anywhere, right? I'm not even holding on to this in memory anywhere in my application. So if the user doesn't save this and they switch tabs, this is gone forever. They'll just lose all their work, which is, to me, not acceptable. So we have to come up with a way. We have to come up with a way to hold on to. I think it might. I know this is not the right thing to do, but I think it might be the simplest thing is to I think it might be the simplest thing to hold on to things in memory, but I kind of like the idea of the temp file pass. Can't make up my mind. I think I'm going to go get coffee and think while I get coffee and then decide on a path forward. I mean, it really doesn't matter. We just need to pick, So like if I'm in tab 4 and I do hello world Steve and I switch to tab 5, right? I lost that in tab 4. Now if I do hello world Steve and I save it, Control S, and I switch to tab 5, and I switch back to tab 4, it's still there. And that's because every time I switch a tab, I'm just reading in the file that's on disk at the time that I click the tab. That's why it persists if I save, but doesn't persist if I don't. Temp is way to go. SQLite makes a little journal file, locks the file down hard. Do that. I don't know if I know how to do the journal file or lock the file, but I think the temp file is the way to go. Sounds good. Are you going to make it open source? Yeah, it's open source. Yeah, or you can find it. Let's see. It's on GitHub. I try to put everything I build on GitHub to to one extent or the other. Sometimes I'll put it on there once I'm done building it. Sometimes I'll push as I'm building. But this one I've just been pushing my changes as we make progress. So if you want to go creep on it, I would definitely wouldn't use any of the code I've written as like this is how you should write Rust code, because I am brand new to all this Rust stuff. But if you're curious and just want to have a peek around at what we're doing, there it is. We are definitely over using clone. Yes, yes, we're definitely over using clone. That has been my escape hatch whenever I run into a borrow issue. So that needs to be fixed at some point. Let's see. Auto save the data in chunk temp when switch happens and read it if we back. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do something like that where we're almost always gonna need a temp spot, right? Because you basically have a couple different states, right? So you have state 1, which is you have a temp path and you have some content, right? And then you have state 2, which is you have a temp path, you have content, and then you also have a save, like a user path, right? And the reason for state 2 is because we don't want to save our changes to the user's path unless that user explicitly saves, right? We don't want to overwrite their file with changes unless they explicitly do it. But if they're switching between tabs, we need a place to write those changes. So that when they switch back, we can restore to whatever their latest change was. So basically, every time they switch a tab, we're going to force a save to the temp location, and then they can explicitly save it if they want to persist those changes to the user path. And then I think whenever we unload the application, I'm guessing there's some sort of like application close event or something that we can listen to. And whenever the application closes, we'll just clean up the temps. This is a lot. This is much more involved than what I originally thought. You look at something like Notepad and you think, oh, how hard could that application be to build, you know? And then you get into it and you're like, just like that's how every programming experience is, right? Like people look at a login form on a website and they're like, how hard can it be to build a login form? And it's like, it's not that it's hard, but there's actually quite a bit of edge cases and different scenarios and different user flows that you have to think through to account for all the behavior that you want to define. Okay, got my coffee settled in. What's the reason for the temp files? Okay, so Bob, what we're thinking is the temp files is there to handle switching between tabs. That's basically what we're thinking. Because we can either manage the state in one of two ways, right? We can manage the state in memory. We can just hold on to whatever text is in that tab. But that's obviously, like, depending on the size of the file, that could be a lot of memory to hold on to across multiple tabs. So we're thinking of actually persisting the current state of the tabs to a temp file that we can then load in and out of memory as they switch back and forth between tabs. Energy Star, and I dare say that Rust is easier than C in a way. Nice. I don't know any C, so I'd have to take your word for it. I think Rust is a fine language. I mean, I think most of my issues with Rust are just a skill issue, right? Like, I'm just so new. I'm like 2 weeks into this whole thing. So it's more of a skill issue on my part. I'm sure once I understand more and more about ownership and the borrow checker and whatnot, things won't feel so daunting. But I'm at that place in the learning journey where every time I want to do something, I have to Google it or look it up, right? Which is just, I mean, there's no way around it. Like, you just don't know something, so you have to go figure out how to do it. But eventually, that the time between having to constantly ask for how do I do XYZ thing, the time between having to do that should get less and less the more I learn. Bob K got you. You'd have to be loading multiple gig files for memory to be an issue, though, right? Yes, you're 100% right, Bob. So do we optimize for that? Is that premature, right? So maybe we simplify this. Maybe we just hold on to the state in memory, and then we can go back and implement some sort of temp file system or something. I'm happy to take recommendations, but we were thinking the temp file makes the most sense. What motivated you to learn Rust? Bob, the guy below you or above you in chat, depending on what screen you're looking at. Bob, he didn't really he didn't peer pressure me, but we joked around. We were just finishing up another project, and we were trying to figure out what to do next. And on a whim, I think Bob and one of my other chatters, Oblivious, said, "Rust, let's do Rust." And so that's how we got here. Yeah. Why not just check? Oh, also, I guess my personal motivation for it is I've never written a low-level language before, and so it was either between Rust or Zig, and I picked Rust at the moment. Let's see. Why not just check file size on tab switch, autosave it if it is over an arbitrary size limit? We could do that. Yeah, could totally do that too. Notepad should have a bunch of bin file in this folder. Okay. So you're saying that's how they're doing it. Let's see, the CD, or hold on, let's just do it and run. Percent local app data. And what was that file path you gave me? Packages, and then Notepad. Packages. I'm guessing I've scrolled by it like 10 times.
I was like, learn Rust.
The end of that message.
Beep, 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 poo, poo.
Sorry, I realize also you guys can't see my screen. I'm looking for the I'm looking for the notepad thing that that one got me. I thought it was over, and then it said okay, so that doesn't look like there's anything there. It is hidden folders? Oh, okay, so maybe I do need to CD into it. Yeah, I thought that super chat was over. The PP poo poo got me. Thank you for the super chat, Bob, and thank you very much for the laugh. I really appreciate that. Let's see, nice. I'm a C# dev by trade, but I do vibe coding for some React web stuff for the company I work for. Nice, yeah, React's good. I love C#. C#'s my favorite language, Justin. That's if I had to pick a favorite language, C# would be number one. I'm trying to find how to get to that. CD %env. Well, that's not very helpful. ls. Hmm. I should be able to see them all in Explorer though, because I think I have hidden unchecked. If you ever want to do remote gov work, hit me up. Oh, nice. Okay. Well, yeah, I'll definitely hit you up. Yeah, I love C Sharp. C Sharp's. I think C Sharp's just such an underrated language, or modern C Sharp. I get it that people like to dunk on old C Sharp. Oh, this isn't the right place, is it? Local app data? That isn't the right place. Oh, no, it is. Never mind. Sorry. I don't see any hidden files in here. I guess I never really thought about how yeah, I can't find it there, man. It is not there. Where'd my browser windows go? I'm high on the React Convex juice right now, though, so I've been thinking of writing a C# port for Convex. Okay, Justin, if you start down that rabbit hole of trying to write a C# thing for Convex, I would love to do it with you. Because I am a big Convex fanboy, but it kills me that they don't have a C#. They don't have a C# integration. I mean, you can use their HTTP endpoints, right, to interact with the Convex, but you lose all the reactivity, right? C# is fire, especially Link. It is. Link is very nice. But I don't like. I want Link the fluent syntax, right, with the extension members and all that. I don't want Link like the select keyword in C#, right? Like I don't know what people call that. There's two different ways you can write Link, right? You can write Link like selects something from, right? You can make it look like SQL, or you can use the Fluent API, right, with the method chaining. Let's see, Notepad, Windows, bin folder. Yeah, but if you do go down that rabbit hole, I would be more than happy to get into it. With you. Yeah, the function call link, exactly. Uncle PP? Oh, sorry, Uncle Pee Wee. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you Uncle Pee Pee. Uncle Pee Wee. Good morning. Good to see you. I'm still trying to find this tab state bin that that Energy Star pointed me at. So I should be able to say cd packages Microsoft Windows.notepad. I wonder if it's because Notepad isn't installed through Winget. Reverse engineering the tab state files for Windows Notepad. Someone already did this. Someone already did this. Opening Notepad with no existing tabs will create an empty, untitled tab with its associated bin. Opening a file will create an associated bin. Closing a specific tab with a notepad will delete the associated bin. Closing Notepad. New tab with no changes will create an associated bin. New tab will unsave changes will create. Okay. So yeah. So I guess I don't really need to. I don't need to mimic the way they're doing the temp file, but I guess it's enough to know that that's how Notepad handles it. Is they have temp files on disk to persist the tab states. Oh, the link did? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll accept. Yeah, anybody's welcome to connect with me over on LinkedIn. More than happy to make some new friends. All right, I'm gonna go get some coffee. It's already 6:30. Holy shit! It's already 6:30. I'm gonna make some coffee and then let's see if we can't start hacking on some of the temp file stuff. Time went fast this morning, I'll tell you what. Also, the issue with save on tab switch, for example, can also be if someone just mindlessly switches between tabs. Yes. Yes, exactly. And that's why you can't. Well, I think it's okay to save on tab switch if you're saving to a temp file, but you can't save on tab switch and commit it to their existing file. Do you see what I mean? Like I don't think it's an issue that you write it to, which I still think begs the question, kind of to Bob's question of like, is it over engineering to use temp files instead of just using in-memory state? I don't know. I'm gonna go get coffee and I'll be right back. I think we've debated it longer than we probably could have just implemented one of them. Classic. right, I'm back, and I made up my mind on what I want to do. So I'm gonna start with not using temp files, and hear me out. This is the reason why I'm not going to use temp files, is because if I implement this just using in-memory state, it will be very easy in the future if I want to then offload a file to a temp, I can, right? So I'm going to start with doing this in memory, and then I'll, if I like, kind of like Bob said, if I find that people are often loading up gigabytes, or I'm the only one that's probably ever going to use this application, but if I find that I'm loading up gigabyte size files into memory, multiple at a time, then we'll address it. Yeah, one problem at a time. So that's what we're going to do. Hey, if it works on Windows, people might like it. Maybe. I mean, Notepad's a pretty decent application for what it does. I don't know if I'll be able to replace that, but it'll be fun for me to use. All right, so let's extend the, where is it? We have a file struct here. Yeah, we're going to need a file struct. We're going to need a struct. Notepad ain't safe either. Yeah, Notepad is not safe, actually. Notepad has Copilot in it now, doesn't it? I think I have it turned off on mine. But yeah, in settings, I think if you open up Notepad out of the box now, Copilot's in there. There's nowhere you can hide from AI. Let's see, what would you like to write? For example, I'd like you to write me an explanation of how you would handle tab state management in a Notepad application where a user can have multiple tabs open with unsaved changes between these tabs, but can freely switch between the tabs. I mean, that's another option. You could just prevent users from switching tabs. Let's see what Copilot says. It basically says what I'm going to do. The application simply saves the current content in memory for the active tab and loads the content of the selected tab for display. Well, I'm glad it's so simple. Discard it. We don't need it. We're going to turn Copilot back off because I do not need Copilot in Notepad. I'm sure somebody out there is using it. Notepad has Copilot. I know it does. Yeah, Notepad has Copilot. But not GitHub Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, which are different things, which is not at all confusing. But can you explain the solution once again, please? Okay, so the debate that we were having, Energy Star, Bob, or we weren't really having a debate, but the thing we were all ideating around was this idea of how do we handle the fact that our application is going to have multiple tabs, right? So we'll have tab 1, which is some file, tab 2, which is some file, tab 3, which is some file, right? And we can freely switch between tab 1, tab 2, and tab 3. Now, the problem is that tab 1 might be a brand new file, right? It's never existed anywhere on my machine, on disk, anywhere. Tab 2 might be an existing file. And let's say the new file and has changes, right? And then existing file, no changes. And then let's say we have an existing file where we have changes, right? And when the user switches between those tabs, we have to we want to keep their changes around. Basically, the thing we're trying to solve is when we switch tabs, we do not want the user to lose whatever changes that they've made in that other tab. So we have to figure out a way how to hold on to those changes. And so what we were debating is, well, we can write those changes out to disk in a temp file whenever they switch tabs, or we can just hold on to the current state of the editor in memory. And they both have trade-offs. One adds complexity, but one also relies on consuming whatever available memory the user's machine has on an ongoing basis every time they open more and more files in this application. And so what I decided on doing is I'm just going to use the in-memory state. So I'm basically going to have a list of files in memory, and those files are going to have some sort of ID. They're going to have some sort of ID. They're going to have some sort of content, and then they can or cannot have a file path, assuming they've been saved before or not. And so for now, what we'll do is the content will always just keep a hold of whatever the state of the editor was. And that way, when we switch between the tabs, using the tabs ID, the tabs ID, we can restore the content to whatever the last state was. And then the user can optionally write that state out to disk if they so choose. We'll just leave that up to them. You save it when you want to save it. We're not gonna worry about persisting it to disk. We're gonna let you explicitly determine that. So that's generally the solution. So we're gonna come back to our code and we're gonna define a file struct. So we'll say struct file, and I'm guessing of course, yeah. I know there's a lot of rambling there. It wasn't very sensical there for about 30 minutes of the stream. but that's where we landed. We basically went in a ginormous circle and came back to where we started. Rampa, mirroring the program from tab to tab, is that an option? I don't know nothing about programming. That's kind of that's basically what you're saying is what we're going to do. It's just each version of the tab is going to have its own content associated with it, and that's how we're going to keep track of the latest changes to whatever tab you're in. Uncle Pee-wee, I hope it's a quiet day at work for you, Stephen. Oh, thank you very much. I hope the same for you. My work is normally pretty quiet. It's one of my favorite things about my job is I don't really have to do a ton of meetings. Most of my job is either doing some sort of manual testing, which is really just me using our platform, or some sort of automated testing, which is then me writing code. So I don't really have to do much. I don't have to do many meetings. And then my deadlines are usually pretty well known in advance. So I can kind of organize my work to make sure I always and kind of meeting my deadlines. Okay, so what's our file struct going to have? Our file struct is going to have an ID. And that is going to be some... I think I just want it to be like a random, like a GUID. Is there something like that in Rust? Rust, generate a unique ID. In C#, I would just use GUID.newGUID. Oh, you have to pull in a package, a global atomic counter safe to use across threads. Oh, this would be good. I could just use a counter. That'd be fine. I can't believe they don't have like a built-in package or a built-in library for this. You have to bring in a crate for it. My deadlines change each meeting and 20 different teams to talk to about design changes. Well, I guess that's why I try, even though I would much rather prefer just streaming all day and making videos all day and working on my own projects all day, I am thankful that I like the people I work with, that the company I work for treats me with respect and treats me like an adult. And for the most part, the team is well managed and the work is well planned, right? So I always remind myself I'm very thankful and very lucky to have the job I have. I get to work from home, right? So I am a spoiled employee in a lot of ways. Wager King. So do you use a lot of AI at the job? I don't myself. I mean, I use AI the same way I've been using AI on stream. So I'll ask it questions if I have a thought or an idea or I'm not sure exactly how I want to do something. I'll say I'm thinking about doing this. Why is this a bad idea? Or can you tell me how you would do this? Right? I use it just like I do on stream. Most of the engineers I work with though I don't think use AI. Like there hasn't been like a company wide mandate or anything like that you must do all your work using Cursor or Copilot in Visual Studio or whatever. There hasn't been any sort of mandate like that. We are approved to use Copilot, but nobody is forcing it down our throats. And I don't think the last time I asked, I don't think any of the engineers were using it in their editors. I think they were all using either Gemini through the chat UI or Copilot through the chat UI. So I feel a lot of times I feel bad for. I know there's a lot of engineers out there though that are getting pressure to use AI a lot, and so it's like that sucks, man. That really sucks. Wager Kings, because most work is just simple crudding. Yeah, but crudding is simple. It is, but I really enjoy doing forms over data work. I mean, I know that doesn't it's not earth shattering stuff, but to me, it's very pleasing to implement. I mean, any amount of programming and coding to me is a very enjoyable task, right? It's more enjoyable than a lot of other work. But yes, Copilot can definitely help accelerate the speed at which you can build like a forms over data type of application for sure. All right, I guess I'll use this crate. I don't know, maybe I'll use the counter. I was trying to avoid bringing in too many extra crates, but how do I add it? Cargo add UUID. Cargo add UUID. And then I think it said I have to update the toml, right, to enable the particular feature. Huh. Add features as needed. So we'll do version equals features equals. And we do v4, I think is what it said to do. All right, so we'll have our ID. And what does the ID return? Is this just a string? Yeah, we'll just do a string. So we'll do, this is going to be a, which string type is it? Hey, ETN, what's up, man? What are you cooking? I am trying to build a notepad application, and we're trying to deal with the fact we're trying to manage having multiple tabs open in the application at the same time. I think it'll be a UUID type. UUID. Let's see. I wonder. Here, I'll just start with a string for now. String. And then I'm going to create the new ID function. Function. UUID new v4. So this would be new let file ID equals UU. I think I might need to restart my LSP. Restart Rust Analyzer. So we did add it. UUID should be a U128 under the hood. Okay. So let ID equals UU. There we go. It is an associated function. There we go. So what does this return? Yeah, UUID type. Okay. Easy peasy. Okay. And then this will also have content, which will be of type text editor content. And then this will also have a file path, which sometimes will be set and other times won't, depending on if it's been persisted to disk. And then here in our hash map, we will have a UUID, and we will have a file like that. And that's going to break everything. Won't the UUID type have a chance duplicated? Will it? I thought UUIDs are unique. Mark, after setting up the multi-tenancy, I totally forgot to consider doing auth, and now it is a mess. Nice. It's astronomically small chance, very low chance. Okay, well, there we go. I think that's acceptable for this application. Maybe it should be reconsidered for something else, but I think for this application, that's an acceptable. That isn't a risk that I will accept. Mark, also don't be. I saw your message earlier. Good morning, sir. You don't have to apologize for being late, man. I just appreciate you showing up and leaving some messages. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Uncle Pee Wee, now Steven's off to work. Ah, bro. Why you gotta remind me? Yeah, it's 7:02. I really should probably... Yeah, we probably should wrap up. I hate leaving this in like a completely busted state, but we'll just have to come back and revisit it. It's the birthday problem with two to the 128th power possible values instead of 365. Well, I think that's a small enough risk of collision that I'll accept it. I imagine I'll only ever have 10 tabs open at a time. I mean, we could do a counter. I mean, the thing is, we could do a counter. If we really wanted to do it, we could use the atomic counter that it suggested, or that Google suggested. You know, we could do something like this. A global atomic counter safe to use across threads. There's really not a good reason not to use a counter, but with sufficient entropy, it's unlikely all the supercomputers would never generate the same ID twice before the heat death of the universe, hence why it's called a universally unique. Okay, well, if it's good enough for if it's good enough for the universe, it's probably good enough for Steven's little baby Rust project. Mahi Alam Azad. Hello, Mahi. How to get a job now? I don't think getting a job is any different than it's ever been, in my opinion. I mean, are there definitely times when certain industries and certain markets are more difficult than others? For sure. But my experience over the last, let's see, I'm 32 now. I've been working since I was 15. The last 17 years has been that getting a job always has sucked. It just requires a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of persistence, being able to push through rejection, because it's just a numbers game, Mahi. You're just looking for the one dude or the one gal who will give you the shot, right? Can you get in front of enough people and present yourself well enough that somebody is willing to say, I'm going to take a chance on you, right? And then once you get that chance, you ball out. You know, you do the best you freaking can with the opportunity you're given. You try to prove how valuable of a employee you can be and make the most of it. But I don't think there's like a secret to it. I don't think there's like a life hack to it. I think it's just being persistent and not losing your enthusiasm. Mark, oh yeah, every time I watch here, I'm always getting a new set of ideas of which is possible and which is not. Steven Overflow. Yeah, you're probably the new set of ideas though is probably not like the best ideas. Lucho, good morning. 5 years of experience here, looking to learn C# or C++. I'm a full stack, mostly focused on JavaScript in the past, a little bit of Go recently. What resource would be more effective to learn C? I do not know, Lucho. I wish I could help. I don't know any C. I do know C#. I know Go and JavaScript, but I don't know any C. If you're looking for a C resource, maybe somebody in the chat has a good one to offer up. I know there's a really famous book, I think, on C that a lot of people reference, but I've never actually learned it. Uncle Pee Wee, I applied to 70 jobs that I had no chance for, ended up at a decently large company in the end. Yeah, see, Uncle Pee Wee, that's been my experience, is like I just kind of cold and warm apply to a bunch of different opportunities, and I follow up and I try to make the most of my interviews. And I mean, the thing is like there's no alternative, right? There's no alternative. The only alternative is what? You just sit at home and don't get a job, right? So you only have one option, and that is to continue to apply and continue to network and continue to interview and hope that you find that one person that fucks with you and wants to give you an opportunity. If you want to get a job, don't be afraid of failure. Couldn't agree more, man. Failure is a part of it. Failure is not tied to your value as a person. Just keep going. Eat the pie that lands on your face. Keep your head high. That's right. It's right, man. It is. It's just a numbers game. It's like selling a service or a product. You're going to get a lot of no's, but you only care about the yeses. Oh yeah, there you go, Lucho. Bob just dropped the book recommendation in there. Let Steven GPT try it first, tweak it later. Thanks, chat. Yeah, of course, Lucio. Yeah, I'm glad we could point you in the right direction. I mean, some companies with their expectation for juniors are out of this dimension. I don't disagree with that, and I think that's why earlier somebody asked how I got my job in tech, and that's why I'm always very transparent in that I kind of came in through the side door. Like I got a job in a tech company, but I wasn't like an engineer. I wasn't on the product side of the house. I was doing support, and then I worked my way. And I think Justin kind of shared a similar story. So I think sometimes people pigeonhole themselves too much. They want this specific job, they want this specific opportunity, this specific title, and I think if you're just getting started, you're probably better off just focusing on getting in, right? Like get yourself in the door, so that you can then prove yourself further, right? But if you're like, I'm only going to accept junior positions at this particular company for this particular pay for the, like, you can't be picky, right? Like if you're trying to get in, or you have no job and you need a job, right? You can't be picky. You just gotta make it happen. Uncle Pee Wee, I worked from support to dev without wanting it. I just wanted to fix bugs I ran into daily. I love that. Yeah, so it's nice to hear Uncle Pee Wee. It sounds like Uncle Pee Wee, Justin, and myself all kind of have similar experiences in that way. That maybe you don't start where you want to end up, but at least you're starting. Yeah, love that. Mark, I mean, you just apply. Just pick a random company instead of pushing yourself to a specific company who doesn't really care. Both sides will F you anyway, whether you like it or not. Yeah. I mean, that's how I got into food science. I mean, when I graduated with my degree in biochemistry, I was just looking for scientist positions, and I had never heard of the company before. It was called Windsor Foods was the name of the company. Never heard about it before. It was based in a town 20 minutes away from my hometown. Been there for 30 years, and I never knew about it. And I applied and went for an interview, and like an all-day interview, met the whole team, right? So yeah, it's to me, it's one of those things, like, for whatever reason, the tech industry wants to make their experience very unique. They want to like over analyze the whole interviewing and job hunting, but like every profession and every industry does it. Like it's not a super complicated thing, right? You find job postings, you apply, you interview, and you do it over and over again until someone says, you know what, we like you. We'd like to give you a shot. Sorry, just for clarity, I'm trained as a software dev. When I mentioned my promotions earlier, I just meant I went the extra mile doing extra work in order to get promoted. I did duties outside daily. There you go. Okay, no worries, man. Bob Knowles, food science a big thing in that area of the country? Yeah, in the Midwest for sure, Bob. Yeah, like K-State, Kansas State, Arkansas has a big food science program. Kansas State has a big food science program. Oklahoma State has a huge like meat science program. Yeah, like most of the cattle lots, most of the meat production in the United States happens in West Kansas. That's where a lot of the meat packers uh, slaughter and process cattle. And then obviously like farmland, right? That's the middle of the U.S. is so it kind of makes sense that a lot of the universities, a lot of the strong food science programs and agricultural programs would be here in the Midwest. It's a very small world. Food science is a very small world. It's like everyone knows everyone and everyone's worked with everyone before, and everyone just kind of swaps seats around companies. It's a very insular industry in that way. ET and just do it, basically. Yeah, I mean, it sounds really shitty to say, but like that's what it comes down to when you want to get a job. Like you just do it. So many meat innuendos in the last 20 seconds. It wouldn't be the internet without a meat joke. Can I self-promote my current project? Sure, man. You can promote it here or promote it in the Discord. I don't know if YouTube will let you link to stuff. I think it clears out your links, but you're more than welcome to I mean, I don't care if people self-promote. Like, I want you all to win. So if you want to share something and somebody else might benefit from it, go for it. Monsanto. Yeah. What does food science really do? I mean, the process. It can vary. It varies. It can vary very, very widely. You can be doing very basic research, right? Or you can be doing very applied research. Like I was doing mostly applied science where I was developing products, right? Um, but you can also be doing basic research, right? Where you're doing like fundamental like flavor chemistry and things of that nature. It just depends on your position and the company you work for and what that company does. You got any thoughts on GMO foods? I assume they're fine, but people freak out over the label. People do freak out over GMO foods. I think genetically modified foods is an interesting thing because what are we talking genetic modification in a lab? Or are we talking about genetic modification that just happens through like classic breeding, right? Genetically engineering certain lines of plants to be more resistant and just selecting basically through natural selection. I mean, I don't really have much of an issue with them. I know people freak out about them, but I never had an issue with them. I mean, Steven's already called me a PP. I did. I'm really sorry about that, Uncle Pee Wee. Hello, Maddie. Good to see you. Thanks for being a subscriber over there on Twitch, man. Appreciate you. I don't get why for one egg there are 30 different numbers. What do you mean? Already wrapping up, I guess. We are, yeah, because it's 7. It's actually 7:15. I need to probably head upstairs and start the getting ready for work process. 3D printed meat. Oh no, now the meat jokes are really gonna start happening. Basically just means we use strong chemicals to get rid of pests regardless of other considerations. Well, yes, overuse of pesticides I would have an issue with. Oh, somebody sent me a connection on LinkedIn. That's awful nice of you. Yo, I'm making a computer in a game named Circuit Maker. Very cool. That sounds like fun. I mean, Norman Borlaug technically created GMO food that saved 1 billion lives.
Did we just become best friends?
CPT Lucho, thank you very much for the follow, man. I appreciate that. We're slowly accumulating some Twitch viewers and some Twitch followers, which is nice. Yeah, I mean I'm pretty pro science, and having worked in the food science industry, I just don't think that the food science or the food industry in general is as shady as people think it is. I think the food industry is just trying to make stuff that people will buy so that they can make money, right? So if all of a sudden tomorrow people decided they wanted to buy, non-GMO food, or they wanted to buy healthy versions of all the food companies would immediately start trying to find ways to make those products. The problem is people say they want something, but then they go to the store and they buy the opposite. And so companies just pay attention to where the dollars get spent. I'm telling you, if consumers shifted their demand with their dollars, food companies would shift their product lines to match those dollars. I mean, you've seen that with the popularity of like protein being added to everything. Like, companies will respond to consumer demand. I just think so many times customers often say one thing and do another. That's just how humans are. Uncle Pee Wee means we could get more channel point perks. What are those? I'm very new to this whole Twitch world, so I don't even know what that stuff is. I need suggestions for my auth. Should I go for centralized auth for all tenants, or auth at all tenants, sub, main domains, and pass? So I guess if it was me, if I was thinking about a multi-tenant application, I know I need to go, but now you've asked a question and I feel I must offer my thoughts. I think if it was me, I would probably set it up to where each tenant is represented by a particular domain, right? So it'd be like Steven, whoops. It'd be like steven.app.com. And then it would be what? mark.app.com, like that. And then what I would do is I would just have some sort of middleware that subdomain is like the unique identifier for that tenant. It's sort of the tenant ID. And then I would use that subdomain identifier to figure out what the DB context should be or what the database connection string is. And based on that, I would set the context of the application to the corresponding database, and then just do all my authentication and authorization against that database. Maybe you did, and I don't remember, did you go with separate databases or did you just use a single database? I also don't remember what you did there. But that's how probably I would set up a multi-tenancy situation. I think that would make it much more straightforward. Mark, well, then set that string. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. Is so, I mean, the only complexity here is you do then have to put you basically have to put a DNS entry for each of these subdomains so that they point to your application, right? And then I guess you're going to have some sort of web server or whatever. Any request that comes in for one of these subdomains just needs to be routed to your application, and then your application is going to figure out, oh, the tenant ID is based on this subdomain path, and then that subdomain path resolves to a particular database connection. So you will probably need like a configuration database, right? You will need like a database that holds the tenant IDs and then their corresponding database connections, or however you want to identify that connection, and then go from there. That's probably what I would do. I don't know how well if that's like proper architectural, if that's the proper architectural pattern, but I think that's what I would do. Yeah, good luck. I think it sounds like a really fun project. I've honestly never built anything that's had multi-tenancy like that. I've definitely built things with multiple users, but not where you had like isolated tenant, like where you could do basically like organizational level hierarchy type stuff. Sounds like a fun project. Love to hear more about it once you're into the weeds. All right, guys, time to take off the YouTuber costume. I'm gonna go to work. Normal wrap up. If you're new here and you'd like to hang out with chat and me outside of stream, the best place to find us is in our Discord. I'll put that link in the chat. It's just Discord, just a little longer. Yeah, I wish, man. I wish. Maybe one day I'll be able to stream longer, more often. But yeah, I gotta go. So discord.stevenfreeborn.com is best place to find us outside the stream. If you want to come back and hang out on stream, the best time to do that is 4:15 to 7 a.m. each morning. Sometimes we go a little bit later on the weekends. Usually I go a little bit later, but that's the best place to find us. All right, Etienne, have a good day. Bye, Bob. Appreciate all your help. Born to shine. See you, man. Thanks for being a member. Bye, Mark. Bye, Justin. All right, guys. Bye, chat. Bye. See you, Amba. See you, Maddie. See you, Twitch. See you, YouTube. Bye, chat. Bye. See you guys. Have a good day. Appreciate you.